All right, so we got the thing rolling. So I do my introduction. We introduce Pia, then I'll introduce Nestor. I'll talk a bit about Spraygunner, and then we just have a conversation. We hang out for a little bit.
Okay, awesome. Sounds great.
All right. So Pia, do you got any questions before we get started?
No, it's going to be the same as last time.
I was going to say, you're an old pro at this by now. Let's see. And I just accidentally closed my window that I needed. Spraygunner. There we go. Wanted to make sure that I had the Spraygunner site up so I could look at your beautiful book. I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy of this book. So, all right, here we go. In 3, 2. No, for real this time. In 3, 2.
You're watching Diecast Breakdown with Chuck Ellis, David Johns, and Mark McHotwheel. So sit back, strap in, and hang on. The breakdown starts now.
Well, hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to another episode of Diecast Breakdown. I am so excited you're with us today, and I am super excited because we've got another customs model builder type guest. And, you know, I always love talking to people who do customizing and painting and all that great stuff. And, you know, this is a name that if you've done any customizing at all or any significant model building, you know this name. You've heard Spraygunner thrown around before, and I'm really excited that Nestor Espinoza is going to be talking to us in a little bit. But before we get to that, I want to thank our executive producer level patrons that help make this show go, along with the rest of our patrons. If you want to join their ranks, you can, of course, visit diecastbreakdown.com or click the little join button if you're watching us on YouTube. And if you're not watching us on YouTube, you should probably hop over and watch on YouTube, because then you get to see us as well as hear us. But thank you to those who listen on the audio format anyway. Speaking of the patrons, First and 64th Customs, Dane Self, DrivenDreams.org, Jason, Mad Visions, Mike's Mods and Customs, Reviews Through Another Lens, TWYCE Diecast, and Video Geek Productions. Thank you all, wonderful people, especially that Mad Visions guy. And hey, who's that over there? Is that Mad Visions himself? Pia, thank you so much for joining us on Diecast Breakdown.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hi, you're going to do great. David and Mark are off on various assignments right now, but I'm so glad we got Pia here because Pia got us this guest. And Pia, before we get to Nestor, tell me a little bit about how you know him.
Nestor?
Yeah.
Well, I actually met him at one of our local customizer meet that we have here, and I think it's held by Spraygunner and Diecast.
Torama. Diecast.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's held by Richard Vasquez, and they got together to have a meet specifically for customizers. So I think that was a pretty cool thing. No selling of diecast or anything like that. It's just customizers get together, kind of sharing thoughts on customizing and tips and stuff. So it was really cool. And that's how I met everybody.
Well, I am not going to beat around the bush any longer. I'm going to introduce our guest because I can't wait to get to talk to him more. Nestor Espinoza, thank you so much for being on Diecast Breakdown today. We are so excited to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for having me here.
So, Nestor, we're going to kind of start at the beginning. Where did you get into the world of miniature building? Where did that start for you?
Oh my God, it was a long time. It was the happy accident. One godmother gave me one puzzle, and she thought that it was she gave me one scale model, one plane, and she thought that it was a puzzle. And I hate the puzzle all my life. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
You know, and when I'm open the box and I saw that, I say, oh my God, that's really, really cool. My mom knows what it is and say, hey, you need that help to your father to put all these pieces together. You need some glue, you need some stuff. That is not a toy. And when my father helped me to build a model and take all the parts and all stuff, I saw all these amazing details, you know, the wheels, the cockpit, the pilot, the stuff. We build the plane together, you know, just white is the same color of the plastic. And I know I have 6 years old. I know that is not a toy. That was a special things.
Sure.
And then, you know, like few months after that, we moved to the new city, and our neighbor, it was a scale modeler. And at this time, I tell you, 30 years ago, nobody have one airbrush. Nobody have any compressor. That's super weird thing, especially in Venezuela that I come from. It was the first time that I saw one airbrush, one compressor, all this stuff. The name is Professor Luis. He gave me some magazines from the European scale modelers, and I'm just getting impressed, when I saw all this stuff in the magazine. I cannot believe that, it's like a whole new world for me. And I never stop it, during these 30 years, I'm do a lot of stuff. I'm a civil engineer. That is my profession, kind of.
Okay.
But always my approach, my personal approach is try to make money for my hobby. That's the truth about my life, And it's so many good stuff. One of the things that I love about this environment, about this hobby, is the friends that you can make. All the stories, all the people, they feel the same passion like you. The people that can I understand you about the love for all this stuff, for all these models, the stories, the techniques. It was a long journey, you can imagine during these 30 years using all stuff that you can imagine. The first tester paints, coming out the Model Master ones, then the Tamiya is the trending, then the Mr. Hobby, then the water-based paint, all oils, all the inclusion at the market to the all artist products using in the scale model industry, for doing the realistic tanks, all this stuff.
Sure.
Like the Mig Jimenez did, and it was a big contribution for all this community to open all these secrets, because in the past, it was the people know how to do some stuff, but nobody tell you.
Sure.
And these guys with their company, their magazines, their publications, their videos, they show you how to do some realistic effects, some very nice, cool stuff with simple steps, simple products, that he start to produce. And that for sure made a revolution in all this industry, because now everybody use the oils, everybody use the pigments. But, 20 years ago, there was like a lot of people lost.
No, you're absolutely right. I tell you, this story speaks to me at a very deep level, because I got my love of model building through model planes as well. My grandfather, my adopted grandfather, I named my son after him because he was such an inspiration to me on getting me to build models. And he built hundreds of model airplanes. And like you said, like airbrushes weren't really something that he built hundreds of model airplanes, and he brushed all of them. He hand brushed them all. And, they looked okay, but he would do a good job on the patterns and stuff. But, there's only so much you could do, because he was using those paints that you could get at Walmart, the testers things, and the very basic sets with the base. He had some nicer paintbrushes, but he would give me his old copies of Fine Scale Modeler magazine. And that was the only way I learned, because it wasn't on the internet. It wasn't like you could, even the books you could get at the library weren't particularly helpful. And it was this really closely guarded secret. There are still some guys out there that are like, oh, I will not tell you my techniques. And there are plenty of other guys who will, and they'll do it for free on YouTube. I do it myself with mine. I like doing tutorials on my weathered builds as well. And you bring up these brands that have really kind of changed the game, literally, especially Mig Jimenez. I really like their stuff. The filters, especially. I love their dirt filters and their sun bleach filters. I just got their water-based dirt filter. It's this little one. It actually almost has like a purplish blue hint to it, and it looks so good. It's such a good dirt filter. I actually went out and bought 2 more of them, because I was like, this is so good. I know I'm going to use it on everything. And we'll talk about them more in a little bit, because there's a connection there between them and you. But before we get to that,
back with more Diecast Breakdown after this word from our sponsors. Legendary Hollywood concept artist and designer Fireball Tim Lawrence has created 3 exclusive pieces of automotive art based on the 3 hosts of Diecast Breakdown. Get these and other brilliant designs printed on mugs and more at fireballtimgarage.art today. Here's this week's small channel shout out.
Big Elvis Diecast Review.
If you have a favorite Diecast channel with less than 700 subscribers and you'd like to see them highlighted on a future episode, email us at diecastbreakdown@gmail.com.
Cast Heads Magazine is a digital publication dedicated to enhancing the lives of collectors all across the world by providing information on new models, reviews on brands and diecast accessories like figures and dioramas, throwing light on customizers, photographers and people who contribute to making the diecast world vibrant. Subscribe to Cast Heads for free and look for collaborations with Diecast Media Network at castheadsmagazine.com.
And now back to Diecast Breakdown.
You're building models. You're doing this stuff as a hobby. So where does Spraygunner come in? Where does that start?
Yeah, well, I'm start working with the guys in Spain, a lot of time ago, producing, the idea of the book and all this kind of stuff. And for one circumstance in my life, we have to move to USA. I'm arrived to the Tampa Bay here in Florida, and I get already done 2 of the 9 models for the book. Mm-hmm. And I need to continue to do my work here. And I need to one compressor and one airbrush, mm-hmm. And it was so funny because in the past, when I don't live in the USA, I bought some stuff from the Spraygunner. But, mm-hmm. Florida is huge, it's, the Florida Florida is too many hours to one place to other place.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
And yeah, I never thought that when I'm looking for Spraygunner, it was 10 minutes away to my new home.
Yeah.
It was so funny because one friend of mine, I even don't know that he brought me to Spraygunner. He said, yeah, I know one place that you can buy your compressor for you keep doing your models, Say, okay, sure. Nice. I have one article that actually I have the book here. Oh yeah, it's over there in one shelf. It's 144 scale book about the 144 scale planes. Mm-hmm. And I made one article, and this book, it was the new release. They already launched it. And a Spraygunner have it. And one of the guys to work in a Spraygunner, Walter, when I'm arrived to Spraygunner, the guys knows me and say, hey, Nestor, you work with the guys from Spain, right? I saw your article in the new book. And I say, yeah. And he say like, now, yeah, very welcome. You'll visit us in Florida. You have vacation or something. I'm saying, no, I now live here, And that was the beginning, it's the other kind of happy accident, to move to USA, Tampa, Florida, and Spraygunner is 10 minutes away to my home. Then the guys made me an interview. I brought like 2 of the models. I have 2 models and 1 figure. I brought this that I'm still doing for the book. I brought this to Spraygunner. We have the interview over there. And then, happened in the same kind of industry, the same interesting. Spraygunner is an awesome store, it's an awesome company. The energy there is amazing. All the people to work in Spraygunner is super, super nice environment. If you're an artist or you're a scale modeler or you love the paint or airbrush, absolutely Spraygunner is one place that you need to visit. It was amazing. My journey in Spraygunner, the kind of the artist. I don't want to say artist because when you say the artist, the people say, take a look at this guy. I'm just, doing scale models, paints, all different types. Now we released the new book. We talk later about the book, but the people that don't know me or don't know my previous work, they thought that I'm always, all my life, doing cars and all stuff you can see in the book. Mm-hmm. But my work is paint, do some scale models, try the new paints even before the brand's release. They send me the test and give the feedback and say that works well, that, it's not too good. And we work with some other different companies develop, all these paints and all these technologies for scale models. And that is for me, like the big opportunity, to try so many other products, so many different brands, so many different solutions. And I'm always say to people, my friends, they never close your mind, never say, no, I don't want to learn that. I just do cars. I don't want to learn that. Because all the stuff that you can learn, in this hobby environment, always at some point in your life works for you, always. And that is something special, I do a lot of stuff in Spraygunner, paint a lot of different scale models for different shows, different kind of stuff, try everything, all different brand of paint, different brand of airbrush, compressors, all kind of stuff that you can imagine. And that gives me a lot of information and freedom. When I have one project, I know exactly what type of product can I use for achieve the result that I'm looking for. Spraygunner is one company to their main focus, the spray guns, the airbrushers, the paints, but in different niche. You know, Spraygunner, if you want to paint one real car, you can go and get your spray gun and all stuff for paint one real car. If you want to do body paint, you can go with Spraygunner and you can find everything for body paint. If you want to paint fishing lures, for example, we have fishing lures. We have all stuff that you needed, figures, planes, tanks, you know, and all so many different industries to go around the airbrush, you know, I don't know, nails, barbers, very, very extensive. But, you know, I'm a scale modeler, you know, that's my passion. I love the scale models in general, not just the car. I do a lot of playing, a lot of tanks. I thought that this learning process is always getting bigger, you know, different stuff that I made during the time.
For people who are switching over from spray cans and stuff like that, you know, the beginner stuff, they want to dabble into actually using airbrush, like someone like Derek. Is there a specific gun and compressor you would recommend for someone who's starting off?
Yeah, we have now one nice solution. The name is the coreless compressor. That is the electric power. They have the battery over there.
Well, look at that.
You know, you can hear. You can attach your airbrush. Let me doing that here. You can attach your airbrush, whatever brand do you want to, you know, 1.8 coupling. That is 1 Iwata HPC. You turn on and you can spray. You can spray and use it with that. And that is the good solution. That is just $80. They came with one gun, you know, one entry-level gun. But for $80, you can spray, you can put some paint here, and you can do. I paint so many projects with this coreless compressor, and we have some videos in YouTube because you know, we have everything in Spraygunner. We can do everything. But I say I want to use this guy for doing these particular projects for show the people that is possible. Because when the people saw one product like that, they always say, no, that probably is for tiny miniatures or for tiny stuff. You cannot go through big surface or one big car or one big model with that. And for this reason, I've used this solution for do a big models, 3D printed and all this stuff, and works perfectly. And for one beginner, if you don't want to spend so crazy money, because you know, at the beginning, you never know if the airbrush is something for you, if you want to grind up, or that is something that you can use for do some stuff and then you leave. And I mean, $80 for this set, you know, the entry level set, I think is the very, very good deal. And then if you want to move forward with that, you can take out the gun, you know, the cheap gun, and you can put, you know, some Harden Steinbeck, Iwata, Badger, whatever gun that works for you, you can use it, you know. And that is a good solution. I have the super fun story. I thought that I tell you, Pia, when I made you in Spraygunner. I'm go like 3 months ago to one show to the tanks, the scale model tanks, the amps. And I put one project that I have here, a personal project, I put in my suitcase. And I'm arrived 3 days before to the show for prepare all our booth and all stuff. And I go to two of those, a lot of paint, a lot of stuff in my suitcase. And I finish my project in the hotel room with that. And it took me 3 days, finish the tank. I made one diorama, the World War II, one Panther with some tiny kids hanging out in the turret, you know, like the same of the photo with the World War II end. And I finished the project in the hotel room, and we won one gold medal in the contest. And that is absolutely possible. And that is such a nice solution now. That you can recharge the battery. They came with 2 batteries. There is Type-C, the connector, the same to the iPhone. And that is super nice solution now for the beginners.
That's really cool.
Well, that's great. I'm looking at it online right now. Is that a single action or a dual action airbrush that it comes with?
It's dual action.
Excellent. I'm looking at that because right now I'm moving and I had to get rid of I had a big 30-gallon compressor hooked up to my airbrush, which is overkill, but that's because I used that 30-gallon compressor to paint my real car. So yeah, so I was like, okay, well, it was great because I could fire it up and use it for like a week and not have to deal with any, you know, I could probably have run it for several weeks without having to turn the compressor compressor back on. But yeah, that kind of solution for something, even if you're looking for something portable or something, if you live in an apartment or something and you don't have the ability to have like it would be quiet, like that's, again, and we're talking less than $100 for something like that. That's a very reasonable thing, because a lot of people say, oh, well, I can't afford that, I'll just stick with the rattle cans. Well, a rattle can is like $6 to $8 each. So by the time you've got 10 cans, you could have bought an airbrush, and you can use so many different types of paints in those things. Oil-based, water-based. You can even, if you thin them right, use craft paints in them. I've seen people use very cheap paints in them and still get good results. And the paints that you use in an airbrush are a couple bucks each, $3-4 each at the most. And it doesn't take long at all to build up a decent collection.
Don't touch that dial. Diecast Breakdown will be right back after these messages. Diecast Breakdown is produced in partnership with TWYCE Diecast and Driven Dreams Org on YouTube. Check out their channels in the video description and subscribe for more epic Diecast content.
Hey, this is Larry Wood.
This is Derek from Honest Diecast.
Hey, this is Chad Reed from Round 2.
This is Mike from Gaslands.
The SRT Jovita Show.
This is Champion DJ K.
This is Mad Vision here.
This is Diecast Dude.
And you're watching Diecast Breakdown.
And now, the thrilling conclusion of this week's episode of Diecast Breakdown.
I get why some people are still very intimidated by airbrushes. So, when somebody says, oh, well, I could never do that, I could never learn, like, what do you say to them?
I thought that the airbrush is the tool. It's the same when you learn how to write with the pen. It's exactly the same process. You need to practice a little bit, and then at some point you are familiarized completely with the tool. And when you more use it, you feel more comfortable and you get more skills. But actually this weekend, the Sunday, we have the class, the first Hot Wheel class that I made in Spraygunner, special for Hot Wheels. Oh, wow. And my surprise was that the two guys to go the class never work with the airbrush, never. Huh. And I cannot believe that, because I suppose if you go to one class to how to paint a Hot Wheel, you have to know a little bit how to use the airbrush, the basic theory about the single action, dual action, and actually we have this class in Spraygunner. We have the introductory class about the spray, about the airbrushes. We have this introductory class, and that is kind of make a sense. If you want to go one class, the how to paint something, you have to take first the class about the basics to the airbrush. It's absolutely necessary. But, I'm saying, okay, I just want to make sure to these guys have the wonderful class, spend some nice time, enjoy the class, and all the presents, in the Hot Wheel meetings. Hey, if you don't get the best result, don't feel bad, because the candy is one of the most complicated stuff to paint. And the guys go with this expectation, like the super low expectation in the class. And then, we start with the basic, how to prime it, the Hot Wheel body, how important it is, spend a lot of time preparing the surface. Because the all steps that you put on it is the paint of the surface. If you have the beautiful surface, the paint don't have to be a big deal, and then the 2K gloss coat don't have to be a big deal. And we prepare the Hot Wheels. They look beautiful, the shape, the all stuff looks so nice. Then we go to the metallic paint. All recommendation for work with metallic paint. It's always challenging because the metallic paint don't forgive you anything. If you have any mark or any detail on the body, the metallic paint remark, and that is like a pure shadows, pointed your mistakes over.
Sure.
And then we have the beautiful base. The metallic paint looks amazing. And then when we apply candy on it, hey, man, take the airbrush in your hand, spray like that, just a little bit, go slow. It's better. Spray 10 times, spray only one time and run it up the wall. Take your time, spray a little bit, soft, let it dry, take your time. At the end of the class, the two students are so impressed, they cannot believe the final result. But the people outside in our Hot Wheel meeting, they cannot believe that these two guys, they never touched one airbrush in their life, achieved this result. to the couple bodies. You know, we paint one blue and one red, and they came out perfect, beautiful. I don't plan to do the 2K gloss code in the class because it took more time. But, you know, I'm so happy these days. The guys enjoy a lot. The bodies looks fantastic. And I say, you know what? I want to give you the next step. Let's put 2K gloss code on it. Now, we do that, and the bodies looks absolutely amazing. And it was like that surprise for everybody. Even for me, you know, I don't expect do something perfect at the first shot, because it's the class. The idea is the people made a mistake, the people learn to the mistakes too. But it was fantastic, you know. And I think that sometimes the stuff, the stock it's yourself. You know, you have to think that a lot of people using the airbrush is the other tool, like the one pen. If you can write, for sure you can spray. You know, it's one tool. With the pen, you do sharp lines. With the airbrush, you do shadows. With the spray, you do shadows. And that is the thing. When you know very, very well the tool, how they work, and you practice, you have the control in your finger for control the air and the paint flow. You can handle it. And for you, it's open a new whole world of the opportunities, the new world of the freedom, you know, that you can do all the stuff that you plan to do, that you dream, you can do. And that is something awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
No, absolutely right. No, I agree. It's one of those things, like, people feel afraid to do something because they've never done it before. And then when they're not good at it, they don't want to develop it. And you're right. It takes skill. Like it doesn't even take skill. It just takes time. It takes the time to master it, and the time to go, okay, I'm going to, you know, not be great at this for a while. I need to practice at it. We don't go to school and immediately start writing in perfect cursive. It takes doing the exercise over and over again to teach yourself that muscle memory. And, you know, I've been airbrushing my models for 4 or 5 years now, and I still have a lot to learn. I still mess up and do dry needle, or I'll get the mix wrong and it'll be too runny, or it'll, you know, I'm not working with the humidity in the air. I'm also based in Florida, so sometimes the air is really humid and things are not going to lay well. And sometimes the paint's going to craze on you, and you go, okay, well, we learned from this one and we're going to strip all the paint off and we'll do it again. There's lots of exercises you can do. You know, I like to, whenever I've got any extra paint in my airbrush, I'll have a piece of paper and I'll just kind of goof around on like a piece of paper or cardboard just to try to practice just, what happens if I hold it this far out? What happens if I get this close, or I pull it back just a little bit, or what, you know, that, you know, again, stuff that you only get to learn by experimenting. And I think people just give up too quickly on something, or feel too intimidated. And now, like you said, the barrier to entry, the cost that it used to be, you know, you could go to the hobby store and get those really awful entry-level airbrushes and the can of aerosol. And by the time, you know, that was when I first started when I was younger. There was like this Badger set. No offense to Badger. They make some really great airbrushes, but they also had this set that you could get. It was like a little siphon type airbrush, and you'd get like a little aerosol can that would come with it. And it was awful because by the time you had figured out how to do anything, the can of aerosol would be gone. And you'd be like, oh, well, now I got to buy another can of aerosol. So, you know, now, you know, we have these little things, like you said, it's like a compressor that, you know, you could hook a hose to that and put the compressor in your pocket and walk around and just airbrush things, you know, just incredible. So in fact, I think as soon as this interview is done, I'm going to buy one of those, because that is outstanding. And, you know, when people get started, they dive in, you're teaching them how to do this stuff, you're offering these courses. What are some of the things that you find over and over again, the mistakes people make, and how do you instruct them on correcting those very common mistakes?
Okay, yeah, I tell you, one of the things is the airbrush is one very, very simple tool. And sometimes a lot of mistakes, the people always associate it to the airbrush, like the tool. And when you go through the process to the people use it for spray paint, you recognize immediately the mistakes when the people mix the paint. For example, you know, if you don't mix properly the paint, when you go through the airbrush stuck it, don't spray bad, you know, for example. And that issue is not associated to the airbrush, like the tool. It's associated about the preparation before. using the airbrush. And that is the type of mistake, the proportion to the air, for example, the right pressure, One airbrush is a one tool to get the fluid engineering, inside, and they need they have the parameters between the pressure going well and their paint spray well. If you put a lot of pressure, the particle of paint is going out disorder everywhere, and you don't achieve, the coating, for example. And if you go too slow, with poor air pressure, you cannot achieve other type of stuff. One of the most frequently questioned is what is the right proportion? How I need to mix my paint, what is the magic number? It's 50-50, it's 70-30, what is the magic number? Everybody asking that. And the truth is it's more complicated than the people think. Because every single brand of paint, they have their own chemicals, they have their own system. For example, for put one example, this paint, Mr. Hobby Paint, these tiny bottles, they came a lot of concentrated paint here. You have to reduce a lot. You have to use almost 70% reducer and just 30% paint. But some other brands, you have to reduce just 10% reducer. And you cannot apply the same rule to the whole universe of paint, the whole universe of brand, because every single one is different. Other common mistake is the people buy, one brand, Model Master Paint, and they planning put Tamiya reducer. And some of those systems, some of those are water-based paint, other is alcohol-based, other is lacquers. And, for sure, some system you cannot mix oil and water. And sometimes when you plan to use one reducer to one brand and one paint to other brand, of course you have the undesired chemical reaction. And when you put this in your airbrush, it's no way to the airbrush spray. I always recommend all people to live in USA, outside the USA, in some countries it's hard to find the same brand, the products and stuff, and you have to figure it out, how to work. But in USA, you can find everything here. If you want to paint with Tamiya paint, please use all system. Use the paint, reducer, gloss coat, everything, because all it was designed for that. And you don't have any reaction and any crazy stuff with that. I don't know, the high percentage of the problems to the people have spraying stuff with the airbrush is not related to the airbrush like the tool. It's related about the preparation of the paint, about the right air, about the setup, right equipment before start to spray, about the prepare nice the surface and get this achieve the you're looking for. And that is not related like the airbrush. And that is one kind of the myth, because when you show that, the people, oh no, I don't want to paint that, I don't want to use that, it's so complicated. But probably the monster is not this tool, the monster is all stuff that you have to learn to do some decent work with using the airbrush like the tool.
Well said. I have definitely learned a lot of those lessons the hard way, especially the one about drifting outside of like going, okay, well, I'll use this Vallejo thinner with this other brand's paints, and sometimes that works, but you're right. It's like there's a reason why these guys have their own formulated reducers and thinners. They work well with the paint specifically. And I've definitely made the mistake of thinking that I had a water-based paint that was really an alcohol-based paint before, and using the very wrong thinner and making a big old mess. But yeah, I think that's something that is overlooked a lot by people. And it's tempting because you want to go out and you go, okay, well, this brand over here has this paint kit that looks like colors that I really want. And I've got probably 8 or 9 different paint brands in my drawer. So I have to be very careful if I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm going to paint with this one, what reducer am I going to use? Can I use one that's more universal? Do I use just distilled water? What can I do with this to make it work? And there is a lot of trial and error. And like the thing that drove me crazy for years was I'd read articles about airbrushing. They'd say, well, just make sure that the paint is like milk when you stir it. And I was like, well, what milk? Skim milk? whole milk. You know, there's a difference here. Like my family grew up with 1% milk, so it was a lot thinner than what. So I was like, okay, well, this seems nope, it was too thin. You know, so you gotta, you know, there's. I wish there was like a better analogy.
Yeah, that is yes and no, because probably it's the milk consistency that you're looking for paint. But if you planning to do some pre-shading over one tank or one plane, you know, the paint have to be more like water for doing super thin lines and thin stuff.
Right.
And always is depend. And if you go through the primer, for example, you want to prime something with your airbrush, probably the consistency of the primer have to be a little bit thick than this milky consistency. If you are artist and you want to do one portrait, for example, the consistency of the paint is totally different to the scale models because you need overlapping layers to the paint for achieve some effects and some stuff. And for this reason, doesn't exist any rule, any table, because it's all depend what you plan to do. You want to go through primer, you have to go tough because the idea of the primer is cover up your model, you know, in uniform stuff, shape. Then you want to do some pre-shading, you have to go soft because you need to do just shadows. When you apply later the final coat, you achieve the result with some shadows, some deepness in the model, right? And then when you go about the gloss coat, the pen of the gloss coat, this is water-based, is if 2K, you know, different pressure in the air. It is so many stuff going on. And for this reason, nothing is wrong and nothing is right. It's always depend what is your case. And even better, the same way to the old technology is changed and we have improved in all the electronics and all the stuff, you know, the models that we buy now is insane. Everything fixed perfect. Everything looks amazing. You know, 20 years ago, all models you have to buy 30, you know, and you have to work a lot. The same way the paints. Now, the chemical of the paint, this new line, for example, from Ammo, the Atom paints, it's one water-based paint, safe, non-toxic paint, but the behavior of this paint is that like a lacquer paint. You saw now on internet a lot of comments, a lot of people say, no way, you know, I don't like to use water-based paint because I prefer lacquers. I'm agree with that, you know, I'm respect, you know, what the people like it, what no like it. But you cannot overlook to now the technology is applied to formulate the new paints, the new chemicals, the new pigments, and all these new water-based systems have the same good achievement like the lacquer paints, you know, because it's a whole new technology. It's a new reducer, new system completely. And that is the stuff to going on now. I'm always recommend the people when you planning paint one car or whatever stuff, make your test first. Make your test first, because whatever stuff happen, you can see in your test and you don't run it up your model. And even me, I thought it was the last year, I paint one car, beautiful, and we want to put in one frame with epoxy resin over there, and I don't do the test before with the epoxy resin, and the epoxy never cured. You know, it was my fault. I'm spent almost 1 week, you know, paint the car, doing all this stuff, and I'm always tell the people, doing your test, and at this moment I don't do my test, and the resin never cured. And I miss, you know, this week of work for don't doing the test. You can use some plastic spoon, for example, and you can paint the plastic spoons. They are cheap. You can see the color, the texture of the paint. If the texture looks like orange peel, you need to reduce a little bit the paint. If you paint the spoon and the paint, you know, going down and they don't stick, you probably need to put more paint. And that is a good way, you know, to get the point. Before, go to your model, to your creation. That is a good idea always.
No, you're right. Practicing is critical. And I'm an impatient guy. Like, I want to just dive in and start painting. And trust me, fellow impatient people, as someone who had to block sand an entire car, a full-size car, because I did not test it properly. I used feather fill primer on my car, and I did not get it mixed properly. and the stuff ended up going on like pancake batter, and I thought it was going to level out, and it didn't. And I ended up with a car that looked like I had stuccoed it and had to block stand an entire full-size car again.
Yeah.
Practice. It's worth the practice.
I tell Pia, I'm including me in this thinking. Everybody, in this environment, want to start one model Friday. We want to finish Sunday noon.
Yeah.
And we want to get ready, Monday or Tuesday for one contest. That is the same story to everybody. And sometimes when you want to achieve some good result, it's time. You need to let it dry properly. You need to. I have the solution. I tell this in my book. We talk later about the book.
Yes,
but the solution for me is when you have some very important project that you want to do perfect, and you want to spend time, and you want to do properly, looking for other quick project by side. Because at some point you feel stuck, you feel like you need something done, and you can leave your important project little bit by side, and you can go to one more quick project. And then you leave it dry, your project, you rest, you breathe, you leave that on your desk, a few days, and then you do some quick stuff, and then when you go back, you have the energy, you feel renovated, and you can keep going. One model that you can go to one contest and won the best of the show and all stuff is just the result to all your passions, your skills, your inspiration, step by step, part by part. And when you put all this work together, whatever part of you saw in your model, you recognize that. And that is the makes the special, the model. But what is the fight? We want the stuff quickly. We want stuff now. And that is the big challenge. It's not the paint. It's not the airbrush. It's the passions. That we need stuff quickly. Sure. We need to work. We need to work a little bit. And I'm applying some techniques. I'm explaining that in the book because I'm doing some models here. Very overwhelming. When you saw the complexity of the model, the kits, all parts, it's crazy. It's a nightmare. Completely nightmare. But sure. I say, okay, I'm just focused in the motor. I just take the piece of the motor, and I just forget the rest. And I just put all my energy, all my focus, all my love, all my stuff here, and the motor is done, beautiful, perfect done. Okay, let's go with the chassis. And that is my way, just sectorize. I just try to go one step by time. I don't want to see the Everest. When I saw the Everest, I don't want to climb the mountain. And for the reason, I try to keep my vision, over there, and just try to do some short and effective steps.
Oh, well said. And we've beat around the bush long enough here. Let's talk about this because you've had this expertise for so long. You've taught these classes, and now you've got this brand new book. It just came out a few weeks ago, right? Yeah, it's called How to Paint Scale Cars. It's a hardcover book, and we're going to link to this book. I saw a video on YouTube about it, and I cannot wait to get my hands on a copy of this book. But first, I got to figure out how to get you to sign it. I'm going to figure out a way to get a signed copy because I want a signed copy. But for those who don't know, let's talk a bit about this book. Tell us what this book is, where it came from. Where did this book start for you?
Okay, Chuck, it's easy. When you buy the book and the book in Spraygunner.com, you can put in the comments, you can put, I want the Nestor sign it. And for sure, the guys brought me the book, and I signed it for you. For sure, my friend. You got it.
Love it. I am good. Yeah.
Well, sure. I just want to try to make this short story about the book.
Got nothing but time. Let's go.
Yeah, the thing is, in 20 plus years, 22 years, something like that, the Mig Jimenez and the Ammo company, they made a lot of books, a lot of magazine, a lot of publication, almost for everything besides scale cars, It's trains, figures, tanks, chips, Gundams, everything that you can imagine, but not scale cars, The thing is about this book, it's special for two reasons. The first reason is after 22 years, probably more, Ammo finally put in the market one book related to scale cars. And I'm so glad for that and so happy that I'm open this door for other people, other artists, to want to do other publication, magazine, articles, whatever. The way is done, is there. You know, if you are one guy to do some works about the cars and want to do something, that's the way. You know, the opportunity is open now with ammo. You know, for do other books and other stuff. And I'm so happy. I'm always believe to this hobby. It was a big blessing for me, and I'm just wanna share my blessing with some other people I can. You know, one way during the classes, sharing all the information in the book. I'm the open guy. I don't wanna keep secrets because the life in general is complicated enough for just keep the secrets and keep the stuff. And this stuff is complicated. You have to practice. You know, that's the first to make this book special. And the second, I forget the second, but let's keep talking. I came back the second reason. You know, I hate the puzzles, you know. I tell you at the beginning of this interview. But at some point in my life, I have the puzzle. I have tons of passion. I have the models. I have tools. I have paints. I know how to do some stuff. But I need something, you know, and I'm looking for this something. This arrived with the Juan Manuel Fangio story. When I know this story, that rise me the inspiration so high. You know, I cannot explain how I feel. And I say, oh my God, I cannot believe who I cannot knows about these guys before. Because this story is amazing. It's incredible what Juan Manuel Fangio did. In the book is a story, a little bit, you know, Juan Manuel is the driver to this car, you know, the cover of the book. And when I got this story, I made a click. I made a click, completely click in my mind, in my life, because that is something that I'm looking for a long time, for make this hobby that is my passion, in my love. And now I found that, and I say, okay, I got the puzzle done. I got all the stuff that I mentioned before, and now I have the great story, one super inspiring story, and I just want to make my puzzle. I just want to combine everything. I just want to combine scale models, paint, techniques. What techniques? All techniques. Plane techniques, tanks techniques. This car, you know, they look so realistic. That is one suited tank. They have the same weighting steps to the MIG using for the tanks, the same dust in the wheels, the same stuff. I'm just using in the one racing car. And I say, okay, now it's making sense for me. I talk with the director of the company, and I'm explaining my vision. I'm saying, hey, Carlos, I have this vision, this stuff. Carlos say, you know, we never do something like that, but I recognize your passion, and I want to support you. I want to take this project, like that one personal project, and let's do it. And we do it, that book, you know, beside the old stuff to going on in ammo, the work, I'm just work, you know, in this project. When the models arrived to Spain, you know, I made the plan for the models, you know, all models have the great stories. You have the Enzo Ferrari with the 250 GTO, you have the Mercedes Gold Wing, you have the Tasio Nuvolari Auto Union, Senna, I love Senna.
Yeah.
The Shelby Cobra, you know, I have to put it's super nice story here. And when these models, some of those from Model Factory Hero, one Japanese company to make these kits, when Carlos saw the kits, say probably Nestor can't do that. You know, it's too complicated, it's too crazy. That is like a one real car, they have everything. Even this car have the piston inside the motor. In the book, you can see, actually, yeah, I'm sure you here, I got here you can see here the pistons.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's crazy, you know? And I'm just started, I figured out my system, is just focus, take some parts, put all this overwhelming box too far away to me, and I just focus and get this done part by part by part by part. And then one day, all parts came, you know, almost done. I have this picture somewhere to all parts. It's almost done. And then when you put all stuff together, yeah, here, that's the picture. That is all parts, you know, to the car before weathering. But every single one with a lot of love, a lot of passion, details, stuff, care. And when you put all this stuff together, got it, you know? And then when I sent it to the editorial in Spain, the first model, the old photos and all the stuff, the guys say, we have something here. We have something here that probably will be possible. Probably we got the book, you know, and for me, it was kind of the dream come true, because with Mig Jimenez worked some artists that it was my superheroes, you know, work with Mig Jimenez. And work with these guys together, it was for me one dream come true, you know, work with the guys in the editorial, talk about the project, the photos, the way to have, you know, to communicate it visual. That's open for me other world, you know, and other hobby. It's all related to the image, you know, to the photos, to the cameras, to all set up, to all this stuff. And that was probably my big challenge doing this book. It was related to the models, but at some point I know how to build the models and I know what exactly I want to do. But my big challenge, it was communicated that at the graphic and visual languages. You know, when the people saw one picture, they picture speak. You know, even not necessarily put some type in the description of the picture. This was my challenge. It was so hard. It was so time consuming, because when you're doing one book, you need to every single step that you do, you have to put in the table. You have to set up the light. You have to set up the camera, take the pictures. Sometimes take a lot of picture. And the 20 picture, only one works. You know, the composition, your hands, your stuff, the product. And it was so crazy. And we expect to do this book in 2 years, and it took me 5. You know, you can imagine how all this stuff is going on. Now I'm so happy to finish this project finally. I'm not the influencer guy. I'm not the guy to appear, you know, everywhere and everybody knows me, because I'm spent my last 5 years concentrated and get this project like the main focus. I need to do this book at the best way, properly, and it would take me a lot of energy, a lot of time, and I'm so happy to get this book in my hands and all people can see, you know, all the tricks, the amazing stories they have behind that. And for me, at the end of the day, it's about that, about the old friends that I met in every single show, the old community to understand me well, because that is tough, you know, talk with this stuff with people who don't know anything about scale models is tough. The people just don't understand. You know, say, hey, you do small cars and you work with that, you know, you make money doing that, and the people don't understand that. And for me, it's about that. Now, my approach is looking for some inspiring stories, communicate that in the model. When the people saw the models, the people feel something. Pia, you saw the models, right? When you came to Spraygunner.
Yeah, it's a beautiful model. Yeah. Have it on that, was it the display case, right? By the Createx paint and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car. You did a great job on that one.
Thank you, Pia. And, you know, that is, for me now, it's that complete story. You know, it's that complete, that makes a sense for me. Like in my life, you know, like scale modeler, that is the whole process, it's close. You know, it was a so inspiring story. They rise me up, my passion, my inspiration, and then I'm use all stuff that I got, and I put that in one scale model. And when the scale model is done, the people feel that. The people, when saw the model, they feel, you know, the emotions that I put when I'm doing that. And that is so nice. And I appreciate a lot, you know, to the guy from Ammo to get the passions, you know, waiting 5 years, you know, for this project. It says easy 5 years, but it's a lot of stuff going on during these 5 years. And well, today is the reality. I'm so happy for that.
We're in the age of like videos, you know, everybody's making videos of everything. What made you decide to go the route with a book for all your stuff?
The thing is, Pia, now, you know, it's easy for me doing all videos and all stuff because I can handle it now. For me, this 5 year, it was like the 5 years in one university about the visual arts. You know, this book represents that for me. But at this point, the only things that I got, or my idea and my goal and my dream, it was get some work done with Mig Jimenez, because Mig Jimenez, you know, it's my superhero too, you know. And I want to do something with her, like the editorial, the book. And it was the idea, Now, today, I have a tons of video, tons of information that I need to start work on it now for sure in the social media about the some process, related to the book. Actually, the guys from Ammo did a very nice good job doing one video like the review of the video, and they turn the pages and the models appear here and some stuff. I'm sending all this information to the guys to make the edition of the video in Ammo, and they made these videos and all this stuff. But now, yeah, for sure, we are in the new era now. Actually, I don't want to tell videos, now it's the quick videos, you have to put some project in 1 minute, even 30 seconds. You have to get the ability to do something attractive, to get the people stuck at the phone or the screen by 30 seconds, you're getting success with that. And, that's the new way. For sure, is so many other factors, because that is one teamwork, and there's so many parts involved. It's the company to make the products, to make the paints, to make the airbrush, the artist, in fact, the visual designer. It's a lot of parts, involved in this kind of stuff. And now that is the new challenge, how to keep growing with all this information, all these tricks, the new projects, for keep the people involved, the community involved, the people inspired. And I'm always telling in the book, that looks super complicated, but when you go through the steps, you saw that it's not too crazy complicated.
I'll say too, as a builder, sometimes it's really nice to not have to have a screen on your desktop when you're working, and to be able to have a book. Like, I've actually printed out pictures of references before and had them on my desk because I didn't want to have to keep turning my phone on, look at my phone, or have my computer set up and looking at, as something for me. And maybe it's just because I'm old. I like having the book open so I can look at the book and I can go, okay, he did it like this. And, okay, well, now let's look at the next page and have those. And it looks like it's a really nice, big, hardbound book. So you could have it, sitting on your desk, and it would hold itself open because it's a hardback. And, so I think it's a really good idea. And you bring up an interesting point early on that, there wasn't a lot of material. There really isn't. There's very few books on model cars, especially building ones that are a little bit weathered or whatever. Like, there's Virgil Suarez wrote a book that was good. He's a friend of mine. Ken Hamilton wrote a book a long time ago about automotive dioramas, and it was like the one book for a long time. But there was so much stuff on armor, so much stuff on railroads, on aircraft. And as a car builder, like, we even had, for a while we had Scale Auto Magazine, and then it went out of business. So all you had was Fine Scale Modeler, and they would occasionally put an article about a car in there. I think you were absolutely correct in that this is a book that needs to be written, because there are a lot of things people don't really understand the nuances of a real car, because they haven't really had a chance to look under one. And they might look at like a diecast, mass-produced diecast car or something, and they go, oh, well, the underside of the car is always going to be black. No, it's not always going to be black. It's going to be a whole lot of different colors. And, a weathered car, they'll go, oh, well, it's just going to be rust under there. And it's like, no, it's going to be grays, and it's going to be tans, and it's going to be sand and dust. And you're going to have metallics that are not really that metallic. And you're going to have, I was having this discussion with Craig at Wetwork Customs, and because he's working on his own, like, he does these small batch paints and stuff. And he did like an aged iron that I thought looked really, really good. And, a lot of people, they'll just go, oh, well, it's metal, so I'll use like silver chrome paint, or I'll use stainless steel paint, or aluminum, or whatever, or a gunmetal. Like, everybody uses like gunmetal, silver chrome, and maybe aluminum. And it's like, no, like, there's so much more. You look at that engine that you have on that cover, and all the different shades of stuff, hues to it. And sometimes the metal has a little bit of a warm tint to it, and sometimes it doesn't. For me, like, one of the things that I struggle with, and something I try to be better on, is the chassis specifically. Been underneath, I have old cars, I've worked on underneath of them, and I've looked at them and gone, how do I recreate that? How do I recreate kind of rusty muffler? It's not like all the way rusty, but it's got some metallic parts, and it's got some little bits of rust here and there, and there's a little corrosion. And sometimes, you look at it and you go, well, that's really almost like a warm gray color. What are some of your tips that you, without giving away too much in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. This particular case that you put, I'm always mention the magic combination between oils and pigments. When you put some, rust oil, for example, and put some metal slag pigment, you achieve this looking that you mentioned before. Exactly. Because the oil gives you this greasy surface and almost the base color, and the pigment gives you this kind of three-dimensional, color and metal effect, Actually, I have the explanation here in the book. You found it, and you enjoy that because I know exactly what you're looking for, and I have the description here. I just want to show you a little bit the muffler. Yeah, you have here, I don't know, paint jobs with no too many crazy experience and no too many crazy times and no too many crazy stuff. That's the reason that I say I need to do something and explain to people that all these effects you can put in one car, all these effects that you use in the tanks, in the planes. It's very well known, all these techniques. That is something unthinkable. Is probably the way that I'm doing some stuff here in this book. You talked moments ago about the water-based wash filters, right?
Yes.
And the name of these shaders. I don't know if you know these shaders. It's the tiny bottles, water-based too, and they give you shades. Yeah, I paint the face, to Senna using shaders, And that is something unthinkable. If you talk with somebody to paint figures, they say, no, you're crazy. That's not the right way to paint, figures. I'm always say to people, feel free to try new techniques, new products, to do something to nobody does before. Feel free to do it. But that gives you experience, that gives you freedom. And at some point, I swear you, at some point in your life, you need that. For whatever model, whatever stuff you do, you remember. You say, I'm doing that, using that and that. Yeah, that's what exactly I need for doing that. That's always happen. And I'm just telling you, all this stuff, the tricks about the mufflers. I'm using that. In this muffler, it was the oil. It's dark brown. Then I put some metal slag is the name of the pigment. And they give you this rust, effect in the muffler. Not too much, just a little bit. And then at the end of the muffler, I put gunmetal pigment over the oil. And then in the most shiny surface of the pipe, I put metal polish pigment. Just tiny, soft. That's actually, I started using like my slogan. It will be subtle. That will be my slogan. Be subtle. When you hear Nestor Espinoza, be subtle. That will be my slogan. And it's not too much. It's just subtle. And when you take that and you take the picture, nobody knows that is the scale model exhaust. Everybody thought that it was the real. Actually, when I took this photo, I sent it to my father. And I say, hey, take a look at this photo. What do you think? And my father says, oh, wow, that is the good reference. I hope to your mother looks like this photo. And then it was the photo to my mother. No, that's the mother photo. That's already. And that is my approach, do some suited words. And when the people saw in the pictures, they don't know that is the scale models. You have to approach your hand, approach one brush or something, and then you realize that is one scale model. But without that, there's no way to know that. The way to achieve that is work in your observation. You can see stuff, but when you observe, it's more deepness process. Because when you observe something, you detail, the transition of the color, the shape, the shadows, the textures, and that is one deep process. And when you apply that in the scale models, you can do illusion with the eyes of the people. When the people saw something, they don't realize that is real or not, because you know exactly what is the effects, how the lights work, how the shadow work, how the texture works, and how the color works, and you can do your magic.
We're talking about how Spraygunner is going to start focusing a little bit more on the smaller scale models, like Hot Wheels and stuff. What kind of other stuff will they have available for people who customize Hot Wheels?
Sorry, Pia, say again.
Remember, we talked about how Spraygunner is going to start focusing on some of the smaller scale stuff. Like you guys have Createx for Hot Wheels. A lot of Hot Wheels people use Createx. But is there other stuff that you guys are going to have there that other customizers are going to be able to use?
Oh, yeah, a lot. It's Spraygunner. Actually, the Mr. Julio, the Candyman?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Julio doing a lot of flakes works in the Hot Wheels. We sell these flakes. We sell the tapes, these super tiny tapes for do the low rider patterns, using the flakes. We sell all the Createx line. We have the Cobra paint from Ammo. That is the special line designed from Ammo for Paint the Scale Cars. TWYCE works for customizer and Hot Wheels. All different kind of tools, equipment for spray, different airbrushes, compressors, a lot of stuff from Mr. Hobby, Tamiya, tools, drill bits, these tiny drill bits, visors. We have such a nice visors, the bases for put the models, and you can handle it when you paint. So many different types of brushes, and all this stuff is for sure. We definitely decide open, our doors for the all Hot Wheel community. I love the Hot Wheels, Think about it, the Hot Wheel is something that you can go to Walmart or you can go to Publix here in Florida, and you can get for $1.50, $2. And you have already one project in your hand, and you don't have to spend crazy quantity of money for do something. And that is something that I love about the customize or do some stuff in the Hot Wheels environment. That is a good way, affordable way, to bring this to the people to want to start doing some cars, doing some customs. That is a good way. You don't need to spend a lot of money, and you have for sure a lot of fun with whatever Hot Wheel that you decide to paint or customize.
Well said. The thing, like you said, what I used to build 124 scale model cars a lot and 125th scale. And the reason I switched to 164, first of all, is I love the fact that people are customizing cars that shouldn't be customized or weren't designed to be customized. I love the idea of taking a drill to something that shouldn't be drilled apart and making it happen. I also, like you said, you could get started. Your base is $1. Your base is a couple bucks. And with a few basic tools, you can take it apart and you can strip the paint off it, and you can make whatever you want. And it's small. You can have 20 cars in the place that one of my 124 scale cars would have taken up on the shelf. So, it gives you a economy of space, but it also gives you a lot of opportunity for creativity because it's so small. Like you have to use your mind to trick people into thinking that they see details that aren't there. Because it's smaller, things are going to look darker because the pigment is more concentrated. But this is something that I tell people that I struggle with and I try to be better at, especially with weathering. It can get real dark real fast, especially on a small scale thing, because you start using some dark brown rust and you put a wash over it. And next thing you know, your car's almost like black because it's like a dark brown everywhere. And if you look at a real model car that has been weathered, usually from a distance, it looks a lot lighter. So I'm curious, do you have any specific techniques that you advise to people who are going at 164 versus big cars?
Actually, I have the example over there because I'm doing my test. I try to do the same stuff that I'm doing my book with one of the new, I don't know what's the red line I bought in the Hot Wheel page. It was the Bugatti Type 34, I guess. I don't remember.
Oh, the 59, Yeah, the Bugatti.
Yeah, the 59. I have here actually, and I made my custom with this guy. That is the original one,
Yeah.
You say the basic,
Yeah.
And that was my creation, let me show you here. I put the wire wheels, and I paint inside. I paint the pipe too, the exhaust. I paint the leather. And I do my stuff, and I have the both, the original stock and the stuff that I made it. I love the wired wheels. I love it. For me, it's the most elegant wheels ever made. Actually, let me show you other one that is so special for me. Let me show you that one too, and that one. Okay, this I got it from one of the scale model shows. Is one guy, the name is John Voltek. He's famous, you know, and they do these wheels. That's the whited wheels. Take a look how tiny it is. That is the real whited wheels made. You know, that's kind of expensive. That is the $50, you know, this set of 4 wheels. You know, but that you put this in your model and take the picture, it looks like real. You know, like the real model.
Yeah, I was going to say nobody else makes wire wheels like that though.
And that is one special edition to the Hot Wheels. I thought that is not. Oh my God! Give me 1 second.
Oh no, he dropped it.
They came out the wheels. They came out the wheels here. I thought that, you know, that this model is not. Is this guy is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They came with the whited wheels, the fabric, you know, and they came in one metal can with the story of Fangio. They came with the photo of Fangio and the real car, and it was so nice. Actually, you can find it this, you know, in eBay. You can find it. It's a $50. You know, it's not crazy expensive. Mm-hmm. And I thought that this car is no rise up the price because the people don't know the story behind this car. If the people know the story behind this car worth a lot of money. For the 144 scale, be subtle. For 164, you have to be really, really subtle. You know, with all the stuff, you have to be very, very subtle because it's so, you know, so tiny models. But I love the same, you know, the same thing. Actually, let me show you. I have this tiny shelf over there. Let me see if you can. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see it's the tiny shelf, and I have a lot of, you know, tiny Hot Wheels over there, you know. Sure. Some of those so special for me, you know, like the Porsche 917K from Le Mans, for example. Let me show you. It's a beautiful, you know, the beautiful car. This type of cars, I love it. You know, the story is amazing, and I get this in this size. You know, it's beautiful. You know, it's very, very well made. You know, it's super nice. And yeah, I love it. You know, my scale is 112. You can imagine. In 112, the details are insane, are so crazy. In the book, we have 124 scale, we have 132nd scale, we have 112 scale. We have these 3 scales in the book. You know, different scales and different complexities of the projects. But as you say, you know, the 164 scale is amazing. Get all these details, all stuff, you know, and this size is, for me, is amazing.
I've done 75 builds now that I've counted as far as cars. And I know guys who have done, we had one guy on here, he's done 900 customs, and he does these like beautiful, like he does candy effects and stuff, and he several at a time. Like he'll do 10 of the same car or 20 of the same car.
Raymond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he hit 1,000 from what I remember.
I'm not surprised because he was in the 900s when we had him on, and that was a few months ago. But yeah, for me, the thing that I keep coming back to over and over again is like, do less. Don't do so much. Like the chipping, it needs to be very, very small chipping. It needs to be very, very light rust. It needs to, you know, mix in some white in there because, you know, you always want to go with just like in my brain, the thing that I fight all the time is going, okay, well, you know, I'm going to paint a blue car, but it's going to be faded. So I'll start with the blue and then try to fade up. And I keep going, no, you need to lighten the paint before you even put it on. You got to think about what it looks like now, not what it originally looked like, you know, and that's something I think a lot of people struggle with because we think in my mind, this is a blue, but it might really be more of a gray. It might be a warmer, like, or if it's gray, they just think, oh, straight gray. No, it might be a little more of a tan gray. It might be a little more of a blue gray or even a purple gray. Like, I think that was the big eye opener for me was like when I got I mentioned earlier, the ammo dirt filter and looking at it and going, that's kind of purple. It's almost like a bluish purple color. And you don't really think about dirt being that color, but then you put it on something and you go, oh yeah, I guess it does kind of add kind of a cool hue to it. You know, it's not just straight like brown or gray or whatever. There's actually warmth. Adam Savage from Mythbusters was a prop builder. So he did a lot of props and he did a lot of special effects stuff. One of the things that he taught me that I always took away was that he was like, with everything, he would either add some kind of blue or some kind of green to it, some kind of tinting to it. You always add, you know, when you're doing weathering, you'd always add some kind of overcolor to it, because things have kind of a warm hue or things have kind of a cool hue. And when he would do like weathering or washes, he would always mix in, he wouldn't do a straight black wash. He'd do like black and then he'd add a little blue or he'd add a little green, because it would give it kind of that extra hint. Like maybe it was a marine setting, so he'd use like a turquoise or a dark blue green wash or something, or it's a desert setting, so we're gonna, you know, make the black wash brown or something like that, like a dark brown or a light brown even. So, you know, it's those subtleties that, you know, you need to work on, and I think that's really cool. Is there any chance you would release another book or something that would be specifically for smaller scale? Because you did the 144 scale airplanes. Would you consider doing a book just on doing small scale model cars?
I thought that will be interesting project because that is kind of trending right now. It's a lot of people doing a lot of content, a lot of videos. Mm-hmm. And now the challenging in the past, you know, 20 years ago, the challenging, it was that we don't have any internet. It's not too many information. Mm-hmm. And now it's the opposite. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of brands, a lot of cans, a lot of paints, and the people don't know how to use too many stuff. And I thought that will be useful, do some guide, some book or something, when you can explain, you know, with easy steps, you know, how you can achieve one clean paint job in one Hot Wheel, how you can achieve one classic, you know, like little bit polder and rusted, but not completely destroyed, you know, looking to destroy or something like that. I don't know, some dioramas or compositions, you know, it's always the same, like the same knowledges about the artist, composition of the element, theory of colors, you know, and you apply this stuff to almost everything and you got it. That works.
Right. Well, and two, like, I mean, I know that Mig has written, they've got books on like war games and stuff, like for Warhammer and stuff, like guides for that. Well, there is a diecast game. It's called Gaslands, and there's one called Car Wars, so where people build these Mad Max type things. And there's still guides for doing like Warhammer type figures and tabletop figures, but there's really not been a definitive, at least that I'm aware of, guide for doing, you know, cars in this scale, because like you said, there's a ton of information out there and you can go out there and you can find it, but you might have to get some from this builder over here and this guy over here, and it can take a lot of time. But you know, if you, like, for example, that Bugatti that you did, that's beautiful. And the thing that I immediately went to was, how did you get that interior to look so much like leather? Like in that scale, it's very hard, you know, for me anyway, it's very hard. It looks like it's very easy for you to make plastic or die-cast metal look like leather or fabric. Like those kind of techniques at that scale, nobody's teaching that. Those are the kinds of things that I'm really interested in learning. And it wouldn't have to be a big book. It could be a smaller book, like make smaller guides, or even like magazine issues or something like that, or like a weathered magazine issue or something. It would be really cool to see something like that. I really hope that your book does well and that it inspires them to give you the chance to do one in the Hot Wheels scale, because I think that would be a very popular thing, because I think a lot of people now are really starting to go, wait a second, I can drill these apart and I can do something with them. And heck, we were you know, everybody's talking about cartoons right now, these little cartoon shaped cars. We've got them right here. So these guys that just came out, Louis Tanahara did these, and they're beautiful. Like they've got really nice paint jobs on them. But what he did when he designed them is he made sure that the base is held on with screws, specifically so people could very easily take them apart and make them customs. Like that's how popular customizing 1/64 scale is that the new brands are purposely making their cars so they can be taken apart. And I think that's a really cool thing. M2 does that as well. Their cars are held in with screws, so they're very easy to take apart, and you can do really cool customs with them. So I think there's absolutely would be an interest in that market. So I hope your book does really well. I hope that they hire you to write another one, and I can't wait to get my copy. And I'll absolutely make sure I leave that little note to get that signed. So again, let's tell people as we're wrapping things up, where can they find this book and where can they follow you and find you?
Yeah, you can go through spraygunner.com. Spraygunner.com is, you know, the webpage. You can find the book and all the products that you can saw in the book, you know, about the ammo and all this stuff is you can find in spraygunner.com for sure. You can follow us, you know, all our social media, Spraygunner and YouTube. On Instagram, we are very, very active in Instagram. We always post. We do a lot of shows, during the year in different states to the USA. We actually go next week to Washington at the Nova Open. It's one show related to miniatures and this stuff. I will teach in one class about the metallic paints. All this information works, for customs. It's no necessary when you do something over one figure that is just for figures. You can use it that in your custom too, the same techniques, the same paints. All this information is useful. My personal Instagram is Nestor Espinoza. And now, after this book, I recover my life, kind of, and I will post in, some photos and some content. I will keep posting some stuff. And definitely, I thought that this customized world is just the beginning. It's a lot of people doing such a great jobs around the world. And I think it's so useful for the people, like the hobby, especially for the young people too, for do something useful for their time, their culture too. When you do any project, you need to learn, you need to read, you need to research. And that is such a good way for get involved the young guys to do good stuff. And I thought that always these hobbies help you to develop some discipline and some good values that they are getting so useful in other aspects in your life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's very important for young people, especially to have hobbies like this where you get that tactile thing. I don't want to be one of those old guys that's like, oh, the kids today are always on their phones, but especially because I am the old guy who is always on my phone. Like I have to remind myself, okay, go out and do something, go touch grass, do something outside. I think it is such a powerful thing to be able to make something with your hands, whether it's making a model car or learning an instrument or doing gardening, like getting out there and making something. And again, I think the beauty of our hobby is that the barrier to entry is very low. It's very easy to go out and get a car and drill it apart and make something, and to have these resources like Spraygunner and the book that you've released, that make it easy for a very modest investment. You can really take your technique to the next level. You just have to be willing, the information's out there. You just have to be able to sit down and one of the best model builders I know has a very limited use of one of his hands because he was injured, and he builds most of his stuff with one hand, and it's phenomenal. He does amazing stuff. It's not even, I think, something that most people would have to struggle with physically. You might have some physical challenges, but you can overcome them. I know people who build great models and their hands shake, but they figure out ways to work with their body motion. And then when the time comes to lay the brush, it just goes nice and smooth because they train their body. Again, folks, get out there, try something, build something. If you have a question, ask another builder. They're usually more than happy to help. I'm sure if you bug Nestor on Instagram, he'd probably be happy to answer your questions. I don't want to speak for him, but I'm sure he'd be happy to. And, again, Pia and I are both customizers as well. We're always happy to answer questions, and again, thank you, Nestor. I'm thrilled when I found out Pia could get you on the show. I was very excited to have you on because I admired your work, and I was very excited about the book. And so I'm very excited to get my own copy. And again, I urge people to do the same. We'll have the link to all of that stuff in the description down below. So check that out when you're buying it on spraygunner.com. Leave a little note to Nestor. Tell him that you saw us on Diecast Breakdown, and maybe he'll sign it for you. Who knows? Hey, everybody, I am thrilled that we have once again reached the end of another episode of Diecast Breakdown. The time flies so fast, and we really appreciate those of you, especially who stick around to the end. If you did, leave a little note that said, I made it to the end, because it's always nice to hear when people stick around. And again, thank you to our patrons that make the show go. A special shout out to my guest co-host, Pia, Mad Visions. Go check out his YouTube channel. It'll be linked down below. And, check him out. And if you're in the Tampa Bay area, go look up Spraygunner and their courses. And, maybe you'll see Pia or me at one of those Florida shows coming up. Who knows? So while you're clicking on stuff and looking around, be sure to hit the like, subscribe. And if you really like this, share it on your Facebook groups. If you're listening on the audio version, rate us 5 stars on your podcast app. That really helps with us showing up and, of course, sharing the episodes, telling your friends. Clicking around on other videos on the channel is another great way for people to find us, because YouTube goes, hey, they're watching other videos on this channel. And we got a lot of great stuff. David does reviews. We've got shorts on latest diecast news. I do custom builds, all kinds of cool stuff worth checking out. So if you want to know more about supporting the show, of course, you could visit diecastmedianetwork.com or diecastbreakdown.com and click the little join button if you would like to toss us a couple bucks. That really helps keep the lights on around here. So, all right, I think that's all of the things that I can possibly say at the end of an episode. As always, I want to thank you for coming along with us for the ride. So until next time, stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thanks for listening to Diecast Breakdown. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend to listen in. Find Diecast Breakdown on your favorite social media platforms or visit diecastmedianetwork.com to learn more about this and our other projects. Diecast Breakdown is a presentation of Flying Valiant and the Diecast Media Network.